Hello, everyone, and a very happy Tuesday to you. First off, we have a whole bunch of images to go through. We've got Mauro has his updated animation here, so that's working out really well. So yeah, also a big day in Academy of Animated Art land. Jasmine and I had our SIGGRAPH presentation today, which went really, really well. We had about 200 people in on that. Unfortunately, the Birds of a Feather presentations are not recorded by SIGGRAPH, but we are planning on doing another version of it later this week. It looks like it's going to land on Thursday, and we will be able to post that, present that, record that, so you guys will have access to that presentation as well. So we hope you enjoy that. But let's get into today's critiques, and there'll be more information about the final date and time on that once we have that. So let's get into it. Let me slide the microphone over a little bit. Okay, so let's scroll through here. So let's start here. We've got Abhishek. So you just asked a question about, based on yesterday's critique, about getting more shaping on the hair. And basically it's just like the hair is gonna, like a little pocket of light in there, but like over here, like over in here and over, and actually over most of it, the hair is looking a little bit flat. And it would be nice to get like a soft light in here just to create a little bit more shaping, especially on the fill side. So maybe just getting you see how you get like this nice kick light here, and it's a nice kick light here on the edge. It would be nice to get something similar on the hair, just so it like picks up some of the shaping there and really gets that going. But other than that, I think it's looking really good. The other thing I would challenge you on is just trying to get some specularity on the face, and then you can also take down these pants just a little bit, just so they're a little darker than his shirt, and they'll fall back into place a little bit more. And I think that'll work out really well. So Emma, you have this as the ball man. This is your Power of Light number 2, and you've got this. This is a really nice little screen capture of what you're looking at. I love that you have the big wall in there to reflect some light in. I think that really helps out a lot. Because looking at this reference, which is from Hugo, I think, beautiful film, love it. Just a really nice bit of super soft lighting, a lot of depth of field, and just overall good shaping. You can actually almost see the Rembrandt lighting right there on her, but the light is so soft that the triangle is very, a little bit weak. But even like, it's hard to get these eye dings in live action. Like, check those out. Very cool stuff. And then just kind of like creating this overall softness is really good. Taking a look at yours, I think you've got that for the most part. Somebody commented in the section about like this light being a little bit distracting because it's no longer hitting hair, it's actually hitting a hard surface. And I agree with that. So maybe just take that down like 20%, and I think that'll help out a lot. The one thing, so this spotlight is shining down this way, and if you can see, it's actually creating a very hard shadow right here. And this is like, I struggled with this early in my career, was that you need to give your rim lights enough radius so that this shadow just kind of like gets blurred out and you no longer see it anymore. It actually, I mean, like, if you, I'm not the biggest fan of light linking it to the character, just because it can create some disjointed, like you fall down a rabbit hole a little bit where it creates a disjointed look. So your two options are to increase the radius so that it doesn't, you don't see the shadow, or to look through the light and really tighten the cone light or the spotlight so the cone only hits right there. And actually, like, depending on where it is, maybe it's a little bit lower than this. But if it is, like, then you can shine it in a way where the light doesn't actually hit the ground. It just shines, like if it's like down here, you've got a really tight cone, it'll just shine onto oblivion off screen. So you won't have to worry too much about that. But just something to be aware of, because you don't want these like hard lines there. In terms of the shaping, this like across here is looking beautiful. A really great job on that. It's real, as we mentioned in the lecture, it's hard with spheres just because sometimes you can get that hard line down the middle, and you're not getting that at all. In terms of your color, I know that was mentioned in the in your original post. It's just that like this blue light, I'm wondering if it's just a little bit too green. Like if we color balance this, and let me just pull out a little bit of the green and push a little bit more blue in there. It's a little bit extreme, but you can see that now, like pulling that yellow green out will help it fall more in a line with the original. Actually pulling out more red too. Some more there. Yeah, that's a little bit better. And then last note was on your how to export the image. So in photography and in film, you shoot your footage and then it always goes through like a post process. It always goes through Photoshop or Lightroom or Final Cut or After Effects or something, where you dial in the color, where you do a final cleanup pass. And the idea is that for the original capture, you're not looking to have the best image. Pull this a little closer. You're not looking to have the best image. Instead, you're looking for an image that generates the most data that you can then use in post and then create your final images from there. So I think of CG as the same way. So my EXR that I render out of Maya is never, ever, ever my final image. I always take it in some sort of image processing. Either you can use Photoshop, you can use Final Cut, you can use Nuke, or you can use, there's some free resources online too. But ultimately, I always like to take another pass at them through a post process, and then I export, and then I save those out. If I need a JPEG for the internet, then I do it from there. I generally don't do it straight out of Maya, just because like that's never my final product. You certainly can export it as a JPEG, but it always gets a little wacky to me. So I always export it through the image processing format. I hope that helps. Let me know if you have questions about that. So Forrest, good updates. Liking this a lot. A couple to continue it further. This window reflection is nice. It's a little bit strong, just because like that in particular is kind of drawing my eye up over that way. And I like that it exists. I just wish it was like a third to half of the intensity. I love the top-down light. I think it's working really well. I'm wondering if we can't push it a slight, and just play with this. It just looks like it's hitting very frontally on this box. And I'm wondering how it would look like slightly behind it. You know what I mean? So it's like more of like a rim light on it. But I think the shaping is looking really good. I just want to give that a try and see where that comes from. Additionally, it would be nice if you try this too, put like an area light down here to function as like a bounce light, because all of this green light would really generate a lot more secondary light than what we're seeing like underneath here and underneath some of this stuff. So I'm wondering if like maybe we could just fill it with a little more coolness in the space. Love the values if you're getting in here. That's perfect. I think that's just where you want to be. And the last thing is if you can get a little bit of a brighter, I guess it's coming down, there's a shadow, but like the spot on the ground could be a little bit brighter too. And that's it. And I think other than that, it's coming together really, really well. Mauro, looking really good. I'll actually talk about this. You know, let's just go ahead and hop over into your animated one to take a look at it. So you've got this flickering through. You got the light matching that. I think that's really cool. I think you can go more dramatic with the light change, especially on his face. I think we can go, I mean, back here, that we're seeing up here looks pretty good, but the result on his face could get a little bit stronger. I would say like double the intensity of the brighter one. And then actually on all the characters, I would just double the intensity on the characters in the scene. It's nice. You got the Walt Disney reflection in the eye. It would be great is if instead of going brighter and darker, you actually change the image on the eye, because it doesn't feel real. That it's like, it just feels like the image is getting darker, which when we see that image on the screen, it doesn't actually do that. It stays that one kind of brighter consistency. But that being said, in terms of the character lighting, I think it's looking really good. Maybe just a little bit more frontal light on this hair there, maybe. Yeah, Yeah, and then if you can, I guess maybe try and get some more specularity on the skin, but it's looking pretty good overall otherwise. Um, and then just like watch out for the edge here. It looks like a little aliased, and then there might be a hard edge in your comp. So maybe I would just blur that edge a little, like add a little edge blur on that. But other than that, maybe take out this reflection there, and then brighten up the eye dings just a touch and make that match the animation of everything else. But yeah, good stuff all around, man. Really, 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 really cool. All right, Kevin, good update. The biggest thing that stood out to me on this one right off the bat were the eyes. They're too blue, and I want to do a couple things with them. So make them like they're too, like I'm just looking at the eye white color. And what I want to do is I want them to be less saturated overall, and then brighten them up just a touch. Something more in this region. So yeah. So something more like that versus the very kind of blue greeniness. So this is something that isn't necessarily as photoreal, but I always try and keep, I try not to mess with my character's eyes too much. I just think that they end up looking a little bit off and a little bit like you can't make a connection to them because they don't feel real. Even though I'm not convinced that the eyes would not look like that. And then the other thing, we need to find a way. He's looking a little muted overall. Like his tone in the key light. How do I want to do this? So it's basically like his key light doesn't look too bright and the shadow doesn't look too dark. I just want to pull that contrast a little bit more on him. And I think we can keep pushing that a little bit. Again, right now we're kind of getting a little bit away from the reference, a little bit more. But I'm just like, I think we can go just like a little bit more on both ends. Somewhere in this region here. And then, yeah, so now we can look at the before and after and all that. Okay. And now, yeah, and then just try and find some more shaping in the hair. And the last thing I was going to say is watch out. There's a hard shadowy thing happening too. So it looks like right here and right here. And it just looks like there's an extra light casting a hard shadow in there. You may just want to look out for that. I could be way wrong, but same thing. You'll just want to increase that radius so it's not quite as tight, and it won't cast that hard shadow like that. Okay, so next up we have Ashley, Aaron, and we'll look at Shibli's this one just because you guys all were working on the compositing one at the same time. So it'll be nice to kind of compare them because again, you guys are starting with the same rough images, but like the way you can see now, like the power of compositing and the way that like building this together different ways, we can really, really change a shot. So one of the things I want to notice about Ashley and Aaron's, and this is kind of a difficult thing about this, is how bright to make these light sources. So we want them to feel nice and bright. And right now, because of the processing, they're getting clipped a little bit. Shibli does a really nice job of keeping them nice and bright. So even though yours is more out of focus, I'd like to maintain that bright level. In terms of the reflections on the characters' heads, I think Ashley has about the right value. I think this is nice to demonstrate the reflections without being too distracting. And I think that works out really well. The depth of field in these is really nice. They're a little, it depends on the scale that you're working on. They feel a little bit smaller than human, which was totally fine. And I think that Shibli, I think you can add at least a little bit back there, mostly because there's really nothing going on in the background. It's a very, very, very simple space back there. And we want to, it was mocked up and intended to be a little bit out of focus. Let's see. I really like the tones on these characters back here. You can see that these guys are a little bit brighter and more reflective, and they're kind of taking some attention back there. So I would just tone those down and let them to fall into shadow. It's great that they exist, but you just don't want like the bright levels on the pants and stuff. In terms of the disco ball, I think Aaron, I think you can go a little bit stronger with yours. It looks like yours is reflecting like an outdoor barn scene or something that doesn't quite match what's going on here, where these bring in the light values of the surrounding and really help tell the story that way and really kind of tie it all together. Yeah. But all in all, I think these are looking really great. I think you guys are heading down. I mean, they're each a little bit different. This one's a little bit softer, and I like that. I like the. But then this one's like a little darker in contrast. You can really pop these characters forward, and then the light and the colors really standing out. Yeah, I mean, they're just different. They're just different artistic takes on the same shot. So really good job, everybody. Dipali, coming together well. To saturate this background just a little bit more to get the character to pop off. A little more rim, as we mentioned. And then try and make these, let me just show you this. These eye blacks could come down a little bit and be a little bit darker. I'm not sure if this is the same image we looked at yesterday. If this isn't the right one, let me know. But I feel like we talked about this yesterday. So just looking at the eye blacks there. Oop. So just something like that versus like this will really help kind of center us in on the eyes and just creating some more contrast there. And then, yeah, take down the background, get a little bit of that warmth on him. And maybe a little bit here on the pants too and on the back of the couch. I think that'll go a long way too. But yeah, beautiful stuff. Okay, Matt. Good start. Get Out, very amazing, excellent movie. Let's take a look. I think we can go darker with the couch itself just to get him to pop off a little more. The biggest thing to me is just his value on his face. It's much brighter than what we're seeing on the character here. Like this character is being lit by like a much softer light. You can see because there's no hard lines, all softness. It's just, and the shaping is happening in the specularity. Where here we've got a super sharp line coming across here. The shadows are just like the overall feeling and like the specularity on the skin is great. But the size of it feels a little bit small, and you can see it like in this little dot up here. Just everything feels like the light sources are very small. See a hard shadow there, hard one here on his neck. And I think that you can work on softening your lights overall. I do like that you've included this blue light here because I think that's working out really well. It's fanciful in that it's coming in from this window and it would never really be that bright, but it's a nice shaping mechanism. And you can also throw some on the couch here too because you can see it's happening there on the chair. Now in terms of his shirt, so the reference, the shirt is actually gray. In our example, it's white, and this actually looks a little bit darker. So I mean, you can match it to that. It just feels like a little warm and flat. The way that this shirt's getting some light kind of coming across here, it would be nice to get a little bit in there as well. I know the pose is he's leaning back a little bit more, but you can sneak some stuff in there. Also, try and get some darkness in like the armpits and some of these areas. You see how like we're getting some really nice dark shapes in the reference? I would try to match that as well. And if you can, depending on how the light is working, just check to make sure that this is being properly shadowed. It looks like the hair is kind of floating up above the head. Yeah, and then I'd keep moving on from there. Okay, last one from Shibli. You talked about the amount of light that you needed to really go through those windows. Yes, make sure, oh man, I'm so sorry I'm not giving the proper credit to the person who commented below. But yeah, make sure you check that opaque thing in Arnold. That's a nice little hiccup. The other one is that I rarely render windows And like whether it's in a car, eyeglasses, a building, I rarely render the windows together. Usually I turn the windows off, allow the lighting to happen as it naturally would, and then do a pass where of just the windows and everything else reflected. So because you don't actually see windows, you see the reflection of the surroundings and then you imply that there's glass there. So I tend to do that separately just so I have more control over that in the comp. And then, and that way you don't have the windows interfering with the lighting, and because you can really save some calculation time. The only time I keep it together is if it's like a drinking glass or something with a lot of caustics that I really, really need to look kind of right. But like for a window, there's pretty much zero caustic and you just look straight through it. So, so there's that. So let's take, this is a pretty small resolution image. So let's go ahead and take that down. Yeah, I think we can go a little brighter on these brights, and I think we can go a little bit darker on that background, just to create a little more contrast overall. Then we do that, we can take down the saturation after the, sorry. Just a little bit of saturation down there. And then from there, we want to, there's a little bit more shaping that can happen back here in the background, specifically under here. I'd like to see a little bit, I mean, I know it's like a top-down skylight, but we just want to try and find a little more shadow in there. And then if you can find any more shaping in this region as well, draw that back a little better, like right in here. Just like these feel a little bit flat. This is nice here, but just like trying to get some light to dark fall off along here would be really nice. And then you can vignette up here in this corner too. But yeah, I think that's about it. So I think that's everybody. If I miss anybody, please let me know. But great job, everybody, and thanks for everyone who was able to attend the SIGGRAPH presentation today. A lot of fun having some students there. And yeah, keep going, keep lighting, and I'll see you all tomorrow. All right, happy lighting, everybody. I'm waving at my monitor over here. Happy lighting, everybody. Thank you.